Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to got into the third trial, and that was actually pretty easy to me. And in addition to that, we also did manage to climb onto the fourth trial tower, and my goodness, that was actually quite punishing. And then, relatively speaking of the fourth trial, is that we did somehow manage to accomplish the fourth trial by simply taking down Ninja, and overall it's actually pretty easy, assuming of course about the fact that you need to deal with quick dodges and stuff like that. But apart from those aside things though, I did those two particular trials no problem. Certainly a lot more easier than the second trial, that's for sure. And in addition to that, we also did manage to return back into Amy Rose's gameplay style by simply to actually do the usual stuff, just like the forms of how it does it on the first segment during the forms of the Final Horizon DLC update. And in addition to that, we also managed to stumble across into ourselves the damn fourth Chaos Emerald. But either way though, enough about that particular Shadow the Hedgehog jokes. So, but even then though, that's all I can really think about it. So today, for this video is about the fact that we're about to take control of Knuckles once again. Except, no matter what though, we're able to actually get ourselves the fifth Chaos Emerald. If assuming of course about the fact that we still need to do the usual objectives, as you can tell. So, for instance, about the fact that we still need to destroy one of those devices, not only once, but 2 times. So, I think that's what I was thinking about it anyway. Despite the fact that it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this, because obviously that Luigi's still playing through Luigi's Mansion after all. So, it's pretty much expected for the sake of the forms of how the fact that we can pretty much guarantee that it looks like so far that Luigi is almost done with Luigi's Mansion. Although, keep this in mind though, is about the fact that I'm not exactly sure if he's going to decide to do not only 1 playthrough or 2 playthroughs. Although, my guess is that I believe Luigi might able to actually do 2 playthroughs this time around though, just because about the fact that we still pretty much get ourselves the European PAL version of Luigi's Mansion. Likely also for the fact that it does have a lot of differences than the forms of how it does it on the Japanese version and the American version. So, which you probably already know what I was going to be talking about. So, anyways though, so yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today is that, well, today's date of course is the... Oh, wait a minute, I just realized is that today's date of course is the 13th of October today, in some cases in 2023 today, and guess what, it's Friday the 13th today. So you know what that means is, no matter what though, I think I'm about to stumble across into some unlucky moments here and there. Get it? Because of the forms of how the fact that it's the 13th day, so expecting that 13 is the unlucky number. So, yeah, because it seems very obvious, I'm might as well able to stumble across into unlucky moments here and there for time to time, but even then though, I'm hoping I don't nearly trying to able to actually come across into certain unlucky moments at this point, but I'm sure enough though, I'm gonna be just fine enough as it is. So, anyways though, and something's worth noting for as well is that once I've pretty much got into certain progression for you know, the Final Horizon DLC update for Sonic Frontiers, I'm actually decided able to take a break on this for a shorter while, mainly because about the fact that, obviously if you couldn't tell, that we've only just got about, I would say, 4 more days to go until Sonic Superstars is about to be releasing until 4 days time. So, yeah, we are getting pretty close to Sonic Superstars release, so still I'm very excited about that. And also about the fact, no matter what though, we've only got about 1 more week left until Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch will be releasing during that time. So, yeah, that should be pretty exciting when it comes to both of those games as far as what I and Luigi also mentioned about that.
There's so much we still don't know about this cyber corruption. Why do your punches work when my hammer doesn't?
Heck if I know. but they do work. I'll take care of whatever's in the way. You keep looking.
Now, something's worth noting for is that, well, since this is on the 13th of October after all, so you know what that means, for those of you the bronies might able to actually recognize this particular conversation, is that, well, suffice to say, happy 5th anniversary of the episode's release. Not just one, but 2 episodes combined into one day, likely or so while looking back since 5 years ago, which is School Race Part 1 and School Race Part 2. And while looking back on those 2 episodes, predictably for the sake of the forms of the finale of Season 8, it was actually a pretty good finale, I'm not gonna lie, especially because they actually just somehow goes into the interesting terms, likely also for the sake of the forms of the plot twist of how the fact that Cozy Glow becomes the main villain in the forms of the Season 8 finale. So as a result, at first glance, while looking back on it though, she seems pretty cute at first, but then I realized that, oh, looks like she was planning for evil or something like that. So, or maybe because of T-Reg, that might be the only reason for it. Although I honestly have no words to think about it, because it's been about quite a few years ago now since I actually have last seen those 2 episodes combined into one, because obviously about the fact no matter what though, I still managed able to look back on the forms of the previous seasons as a matter of fact, including by the forms of the best gift ever, during the forms of the Christmas special. So because of that though, yeah, not much else to say about this as far as I'm usually concerned with. So yeah, I can just simply manage able to glide through here and try to take down yet another device by doing more square button mashing, or specifically the X button for the likes of the Xbox or the Y button on the Switch version. So yeah, you probably get the idea. And it looks like the Chaos Emerald has been spotted. So yeah, we'll definitely try to able to go ahead and obtain it. But before we get into that though, I need to double check what's beyond in this particular segment over there. So in fact, kind of thinking about it though, still, it does kind of reminds me of able to actually explore certain sky sections during the forms of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, because obviously, if no matter what though, is that certain obstacles or platforming stuff usually takes place in the skies above. So yeah, it does kind of reminds me of a similar aspect of it. So anyway though, there's another thing I want to address something about this as well, is that recently, I've somehow finally managed able to obtain Mephiles the Dark in the forms of Sonic Dash. And as a result, yeah, it is pretty cool to able to actually finally get myself Mephiles the Dark. So all he needs left now is, of course, Classic Supersonic, which I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be releasing during that time, but even then, I'm sure I'll be able to actually find out more details about that once we get to the forms of the later weeks to come. And speaking of which though, is that, of course, until next Wednesday is obviously about the fact that with the Mario Kart Tour content-wise, is probably going to go into a rerun schedule, which as a result, the next tour is going to be a rerun of the forms of the Halloween tour based off from last year. So because of that though, yeah, I can see why about the fact that a lot of people seemed able to give up playing the forms of Mario Kart Tour, just because about no matter what though, that the amount of content is pretty much reused for the sake of the forms of those upcoming tours alike. Which, as a result, because of how the fact that, you know what I'm saying, with the new content has been finished and done. So, yeah, I can totally respect that. So, anyways though, the next thing I want to address something is that I'm pretty sure I'm almost finishing up when it comes to watching every single The Treehouse of Horror episodes for the sake of The Simpsons. Like, as a result, I'm not exactly sure how many, episodes I've got left, when it gets to Halloween. So, yeah, I think speaking of which though, is that I believe we've only just got about 18 more days to go until Halloween is about to officially start. So, anyway though, there's another thing I want to address something about this as well, is that, well, potentially speaking though, is that, well, there's actually, kind of thinking about it, there's actually, the actual celebration has been going on. Specifically, one of those Sega games in particular, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, originally came out on the Nintendo GameCube. So, yeah, it looks like that Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg has officially became 20 years old. Despite I've never played that game before, although kind of think about it, back in long ago actually, when me and Daffy was actually involved, that basically that was about the fact that we did see that particular game in action, while Shadow the Hedgehog did somehow manage able to play the game. And as a result, that he did manage able to play for a bit, and then despite the fact that me and Daffy did somehow manage able to watch him playing it, and as a result he just stops and Junie falls in one of those lava worlds. So yeah, it's pretty interesting while looking back in Junie forms have been Billy Hatcher and a Giant Egg for the Nintendo GameCube, and then as far as I'm aware, that game has also been released on PC as well. So because of that, I'm not exactly sure if I was trying to get Billy Hatcher and a Giant Egg, because obviously I'm almost running out of room for my GameCube games shelf right now. Although, relatively speaking though, I'm very curious to know about the fact I was really into the forms of some Sega stuff. Although, I haven't exactly got every single Sega property games, like for instance with Space Channel games and Jet Set Radio or Crazy Taxi and all that stuff. And that could be also applies to the forms of some other games as well, like Summer de Amigo and all that stuff. But relatively speaking though, I always cared for the forms of not only Nights into Dreams, but also with Super Monkey Ball, and of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, anyways though, yeah, happy 20th anniversary of Billy Hatcher and a Giant Egg. So, congratulations to that particular game. Did somehow manage able to become, well, 20 years old. So, anyway. Oh, and also another thing I want to address something about this as well, is that, as it turns out, speaking of the forms of the Super Mario Bros. Wonder game, it looks like something tells me is that Luigi's Death Stare is once again gonna make its own comeback after the events of Mario Kart 8, which, that could be also applies for the Switch version as well, for the sake of, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So as a result, it looks like that Luigi's Death Stare is gonna return during the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So, yeah, it seems kind of interesting to say the least. Even though, mind you, about the fact, no matter what though, I haven't exactly paying attention to that particular stuff whatsoever. Although, one thing I found was a little bit crazy about this is that, well, relatively speaking though, is that someone said in the comments during the forms of on Wednesday that he did say to me something about the fact that, well, it looks like there was actually a very weird situation with the forms of not only for its Disney company, but for Marvel stuff as well. That basically, they did say that Disney has officially broken up Mickey and Minnie Mouse, which as a result, it was seen in an upcoming Marvel comic that, however, yeah, I'll explain more now in a moment.
Oh no you don't. Sonic handled 4 islands of this mess. I'm not going down to just one. You hear that? This isn't over until I win.
Well, it looks like Knuckles is also gonna get corrupted somehow. So, it looks like we're about to take control of Tails once again, so we can pretty much guarantee we can able to do the same thing, like trying to find a Coco device, and hopefully we're able to find not only the 6th Chaos Emerald, but also with the 3rd, and probably the final Coco device that we can potentially try to find. So, and that's where we stumbled across into ourselves the fact that certain obstacle challenges might be felt a bit tricky at first glance. So, but hopefully I'll try my best to actually just try to navigate certain things like that. Although, relatively speaking though, I was originally trying to attempt it to actually, like, you know, keep on searching around in the entire island to search for, not only for the sake of certain challenges, but also with the forms of, you know, certain map scanning, Cocos. But, I'll do those in a later time, just because I need to take care of the forms of the actual story progression first, until likely at the very end that I'll save the ending portion until for last, just like the forms of how it does it on the base game. So because of this though, oh Jesus Louise, oh man, that was close. Anyways though, as I was saying, that Disney has officially broken up Mickey and Minnie as well, because it seems about the fact, no matter what though, in the upcoming Marvel comic, that it seems to be more specifically is that instead of Mickey and Minnie is going to be involved, so instead it's Mickey and Daisy working together, defeating the bad guys and such. So as a result, I mean, it's like, that was just wrong. Like, as a result, Mickey and Minnie Mouse are such a cute couple, or adorable couple, and seeing with Mickey and Daisy doesn't seem right, so yeah, it just feels kind of weird able to actually go for that particular decision. So, because usually, relatively speaking, is that both Donald and Daisy are both ducks, and then meanwhile for Mickey and Minnie are both mouse. So yeah, I honestly have no idea why they go for that particular decision. So anyways though, also from what I've heard, during the forms of that particular point, that there was this particular channel called MD Game Station, that excuse me, I'm doing sorry about the actual belching for this point, guys, because as always, eating some more chili dogs, as we expected, like most you know, hedgehogs usually attempt to eat, well, usually for the sake of the blue blur himself, like me. But either way though, that's as far as I can usually think about it. So anyway, he did state about the forms of one of those questions in particular, when it comes to something related to Sonic the Hedgehog, which as a result he did state this: what is your preferred method of entering special stages in classic Sonic games? Like, for instance, like Big Ring at the end of the level, or checkpoints, or finding big rings. And it looks like that a lot of people do prefer finding big rings, because obviously about the fact, no matter what though, they are pretty fun to find, especially for the sake of the forms of not only Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, but also with Sonic Mania, which as a result, the less popular choice is checkpoints, which I can totally see why, because every time whenever you think you're getting closer to the checkpoint and activate the special stage glowing thing, during the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and then as soon as that enemy just hits you, well, too bad, you got able to keep on searching for those rings again. So yeah, that's no fun during the forms of that particular method. So, and as far as the big ring at the end of the level is concerned, it's pretty much a mixed result. So yeah, that's what I was expecting to think about this anyway. So, but personally speaking though, I'm pretty much agreed for the sake of the forms of finding big rings during the forms of not only in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, but also with the forms of Sonic Mania as well. Oh yeah, this also includes Sonic Superstars as well. So, I'm thinking about, no matter what though, this is technically the third time that we can pretty much guarantee that we were able to find big rings in order to able to actually access those special stages, whilst Knuckles Chaotix doesn't count, because Knuckles Chaotix does lead you to a bonus stage, not the special stages, so something worth noting for. So, oh, and speaking of which though, is about the fact, no matter what though, it looks like that Princess Peach Showtime has recently updated its entire box art, when it comes to the forms of how to factor with this new visual update. Like, it feels like a similar situation as the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Odyssey. Like, for instance, about the fact, no matter what though, in the beta version of that particular box art of Super Mario Odyssey, well, obviously everything else is finalized, except with that one in particular picture that is usually based off from, is obviously based off from the Sand Kingdom during the forms of the original version of the forms of, or should I say, the older version of that particular box art, whilst in the final version of that particular box art in Super Mario Odyssey, that Sand Kingdom picture has been replaced by the forms of the Lake Kingdom picture. So I can totally understand that because of the forms of vibrant colors and all that stuff, or something relates to that. But even then though, it feels like a similar situation right now as in Princess Peach Showtime. Like, at first glance, that's similar to the forms of how it does it on certain Japanese box arts for Kirby games, that usually Princess Peach is always smiling throughout the majority of the forms of the posing and stuff like that. In a newer updated version, on the other hand, she actually changes emotion to, let's just say, angry or cross, or in some cases though, has a brave of courage or something like that. I'm guessing they're trying to able to make it an inspiration for the sake of the forms of the Mario movie counterpart of Peach, because obviously the Mario movie version of Peach, that she did a lot of stuff rather than just become a damsel in distress. So yeah, I can totally see that coming. And as far as the forms of the Kung Fu Peach, as far as I'm concerned, that it was also getting its updated artwork as well. Like, she's now becoming a lot more serious than the forms of how it does it for its toned down emotions. So yeah, that seems pretty interesting, all things considered, especially concerning for the fact that we pretty much guarantee, for the sake of time, that we might able to actually see that particular box art finalized for the sake of the forms of Princess Peach Showtime during at some point and during the forms of in next year's March. So usually for the sake of the 22nd of March, because of the forms of the leap year, is about to happen during the forms of in 2024. So anyway, as you can see, we actually stumbled across into ourselves our familiar thing. If for those of you ever experienced Sonic Adventure 2 before, basically we have the returning mech for the likes of Sonic Adventure 2. But the only difference is this time around though is that you can able to only use that if you pretty much maxed out on rings, if you managed able to boost, and in addition to that, I think there was actually an upgrade you can able to get, or that specific skill you can able to obtain once you managed able to keep on collecting some more skill points and all that stuff, which hopefully we'll try to do that at some point in the later parts to come, because like I said before, is that next week is going to be yet another uploading schedule changes for the time being. Like for instance, I think I'll let Luigi will continue playing through Luigi's Mansion for a bit, and because of that though, because until likely, as I said before, until 4 days time, that Sonic Superstars is about to be releasing. So yeah, I'm pretty much excited to able to actually get a chance to play Sonic Superstars once that game comes out. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of Sonic fans out there will be pretty excited able to play Sonic Superstars. Even though, unfortunately though, is that similar as the forms of how it does it on most newer games nowadays, for the sake of not only The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but also same applies with Pikmin 4, and maybe potentially with other games like Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, or any other games for that matter. Unfortunately though, one of those particular websites obviously did spoil a lot of things. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to able to try my best to able to avoid any spoilers. So because of that though, that's essentially what I'm going to be focused on. And unfortunately though, my capture card glitches still exist. So yeah, that's the perfect example of why, that until specifically in next week, I think I'll let Luigi decide to take over for certain days for a while, when it comes to able to actually doing some more Luigi's Mansion stuff. Because as far as I'm concerned, that I definitely need to fix out a lot of issues for my 1080p setting for my capture card device, because seriously, that's getting a bit ridiculous now whenever I stumble across into that particular weird graphical glitch for that particular capture card in mind. So, which also applies for the sake of the forms of my microphone commentary glitches as well. But thankfully though, it's a little bit more tolerable than the forms of how it does it since on Wednesday, but still, it's incredibly annoyingly consistent when it comes to the forms of knowing some stuff like this. So, but I digress. So, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for the sake of the fact that, well, I totally get it because of how the fact that hopefully by that time until, well, specifically during the forms of in December this year, spoiler alert, for those of you who want to know what I'm asking for this year's Christmas, is that, well, I was attempting to able to actually originally try to ask for the PlayStation 5 Slim, but it's not going to be the case. So instead, I'm actually going to be going after an upgraded laptop. So because of that, hopefully with a much more better speed, and maybe eventually it's about the fact that hopefully with the CPU, with that particular gigabyte in mind, will be a lot more advanced. So at least I'm hoping so anyway. So, but then again, we'll have to wait and see what happens there, especially concerning for the fact that maybe some Toys R Us were able to save that particular topic once we get to the final Let's Play of 2023 for the sake of time. So anyways though, okay, let's talk about the forms of how the fact that recently Among Us has officially confirmed the actual release date for its particular DLC, or should I say the 5th Island date, which appears to be by the forms of the Fungal. The Fungal DLC update for Among Us has been confirmed. It will be releasing at some point on the 24th of October, so that's going to be roughly about 11 days time now, so, or, yeah, just 11 days in general, so, yeah, I apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit slightly awkward at this point sometimes, because, honestly, aside from the fact that I've already mentioned about quite a few things here and there, but aside from all that stuff, though, that's as far as I can think about it, and that's the perfect example of why, also, that's another example that I essentially gonna have to take a break on playing, Sonic Frontiers for some time, just because no matter what though, I just get the feeling about the fact that the difficulty in this particular DLC is about to ramp up, likely also a ridiculous degree. So as a result, it feels remarkably similar to its difficulty for the sake of not only The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the sake of enemy encounters, but also as it applies with the forms of certain boss battles as far as I'm aware in Master Mode, but it's also with the forms of Tears of the Kingdom as well, so although I was attempting to... Oh, jeez, that was close. I almost fell off and died then, but no, I don't want to come across to you because Tails is pretty much under-leveled. So maybe, I don't know if Sonic were able to actually tackle for him, because obviously with Silver Hammer in mind, that he's actually a lot more tougher this time around. So, also I just realized is that Silver Hammer is the only Guardian in the entire DLC does not have a plus variant. So, I'm not exactly sure how that seems to be the case, but either way, oh, don't tell me I have to, okay, I need to activate those two switches again with the side loop technique, so that's something I suppose, so anyway, it's a good thing we did somehow manage to able to get ourselves the actual, the mech skill, so just to ensure for the fact that we can able to easily make our way to certain segments of the forms of certain platforming parts, so but anyway, though. And as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that until tomorrow, we will definitely going to be doing Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. And that's also another reason about the fact that the uploading schedule so far is still pretty slow. But hopefully by that time until when it gets to the point until at some point in November sometime, or perhaps even maybe next year for the better, then hopefully we'll be back on track for the sake of the phones that uploading schedules alike. So even then though. Also I just realized is that so far, between both this, for the sake of the forms of... Excuse me, I'm really sorry about this point, folks, because again, eating some more chili dogs as to be expected. So, anyway, what I found was a little bit odd for the sake of the forms of uploading schedules recently is that between both, not only Sonic Frontiers for the sake of the majority of the Final Horizon DLC update, alongside with the forms of Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube version for that particular Let's Play. Mind you, we're probably not going to tackle through the 3DS version just because the controls is a bit too cumbersome to deal with. But it seems that a lot of viewers seems to really enjoy Luigi's Mansion so far, especially because, you know, it's basically a Halloween-themed game, of course. So, but I was expecting for the fact that maybe I could probably be able to predict that Sonic Frontiers for the later parts to come. Unfortunately though, it seems that I somehow managed to come across into that issue where the views count is actually rather low, which I'm not exactly sure why that seems to be the case. But even then though, I think I'm also able to actually say this about the fact that I don't think there's going to be any more uploading schedules for Sonic Frontiers until I most have to delay the continuation parts of Sonic Frontiers until probably by the end of October, likely also for the 23rd of October, all the way up to sometime in November or December, depending on how long is this particular DLC is going to take, when it comes to able to going for its full completion. I mean, seriously, I get it about the fact that it does add a lot more content, which is probably understandable for my circumstances, but no matter what, how many times I was trying to able to be finding something, and next you notice, oh, okay, so I can able to get rid of those. And that could be also applies to those as well. And maybe with those poles as well, little Titan pole things, and sure enough, I can able to progress, so that's a thing, I suppose. I think we should probably be able to go for the middle one first. There we go. So that way, because I can definitely notice from the start though, is that we definitely need to get some accurate shots for able to actually just try to activate this little side loop thingy right there. So there we go. So at least I've got some progression there. Although keep this in mind though, is that in order to able to actually activate that particular side effect or something like that with that blue line, basically though is about the fact that I do need to oh, and also I just got the notification from, of course, Mario Kart Tour, speaking of which. So I mean, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I'm almost gonna get bored for playing Mario Kart Tour because I'm still begging for Wave 6 to able to finally get its final release date for the sake of the forms of Wave 6 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Because seriously, it's been about 3 months ago now since I actually have last played Mario Kart 8 Deluxe since when Wave 5 DLC first came out. I mean, I have no words to able to think about it, so anyways though, oh wait, I could probably be able to actually do a sequence breaking, can I? Well, yes I can. Assuming of course I need to get enough height for able to actually just try to get up. Ah, there we go. At least I did somehow manage to able to force my way to able to break the entire sequence, so huzzah. So although keep this in mind though, is that I really wish that they're able to include the actual meter of the actual fly meter ever since in, not only in Sonic Heroes, but also with the forms of Project 06, the fan-made game. So, but oh well, no big deal, because we somehow made our way to the forms of, well, that particular Coco device, so we can able to actually interact with this particular Coco device. And once we're done with that, I'm presuming that the 6th Chaos Emerald has now been located somewhere further beyond. So yeah, there's still, it feels it might be take a bit while to able to actually get to this point. So, but thankfully with the forms of that particular mech boost, as you can tell, that should make things a little bit more self-explanatory to able to, oh whoa whoa whoa. I did not notice you can able to actually do this particular technique, so yeah, there's not much else I can say. Oh jeez, I have to make my way higher up and above. Oh jeez, this might take a bit while. Now I'm presuming is that after we've come across into ourselves the 6th Chaos Emerald, I believe that we're able to take control of Sonic again, and as a result, that pretty much leads us to the 5th and probably the final Trial Tower, which pretty much leads us to that some people seem to say is probably without a doubt is the hardest trial in the entire game, which, oh boy, I'm probably not going to be looking forward to that though, I must be quite frank, but then again, we'll talk more about it whenever I do manage to able to decide to come back into this at some point, so okay, how am I supposed to get up there? I know there's actually another way I could probably do this, but I think this particular technique might work. So, although I was expecting to try to able to actually deal with the forms of some more island challenges, but I just want to able to find those Chaos Emeralds, so I just want to get those out of the way first. So, there we go. That segment is done.
Every time I interact with cyberspace, I'm getting more corrupted. This is what Sonic was dealing with this whole time. I knew he was sick, but I never realized it was like this. If I'm going to be at his side, then I need to keep at his pace. I won't let this stop me. Stood a chance against Sonic. Now you're up against all 4 of us. You should have quit while you were behind.
And sure enough, we can able to take control of Sonic once again. So, unfortunately though, for the sake of the forms of the character swap system, we have to wait until for a very, very long while, especially because now we've actually done some parts of the forms of this entire DLC so far. So, no matter what though, we did somehow activate the 5th and the final trial tower, so hopefully we're able to guarantee to able to tackle for that. Assuming, of course, I need to take care of a lot of things first. So, yeah, again, it might take a bit while though, especially concerning for the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I've heard there's going to be some hardest parts during the forms of later on. Especially because, well, at least depending on what difficulty you decide to choose, for the sake of the forms of some hardest aspects during the forms of the Final Horizons DLC update in mind, but even then though, I honestly have no words what I was expecting to do here, so... Although, I was expecting to able to try to play this on my own time, just trying to able to figure something out entirely by myself, although some of them are actually very tricky and very, complex as well. I believe I did this the opposite, didn't I? Because I think something tells me I have to able to just try to do the opposite way. Yep, I have to do this completely opposite, so... I'll be back for that eventually, so don't you guys worry, especially because I just get a strong sense of feeling that this particular playthrough of Sonic Frontiers will be much, much longer than the forms of how it does it for Super Mario Odyssey. That's for sure to me though, because concerning for the fact that, well, there's going to be a lot of stuff to do. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and, oh, I wonder what's in here. I'm curious to know about the fact that, oh wait, I somehow activate this, didn't I? For the sake of the forms of those portal gears, didn't I? Yeah, I believe I did. So, in some cases though, oh, we have something new as well. So, in addition about the fact that not only do we get ourselves, you know, the numbered rings, including the moon rings, and on top of that, there's also some animals that we can able to help them. But also, we're about to race against with the doppelganger of Tails. Okay, that seems kind of odd, especially concerning for the fact that it does kind of remind me of the forms of one of those doppelganger races for the sake of the forms of Sonic Generations, except, well, those stages last way shorter than the forms of how it does it on Sonic Generations, though. Well, I can totally see why. This might be a little bit of improvement over the likes of how it does it on the Doppelganger race and during the forms of Sonic Generations, because sometimes, though, you go for the exactly same stage again, but with different conditions, and on top of that, depending on what stage you go into, sometimes it can be felt a bit too lengthy on, Sonic Generations Doppelganger race, but it seems that I just have no idea what the heck am I supposed to do here. So, although if I fail too many times, I could probably be able to come back for it at some point in the future. To be more specifically, once we're done with the forms of some parts of the game, likely also for the Final Horizons DLC update. Oh yeah, that's what happens if you do manage to come across into one of your flicky friends or something like that. I believe you have to carry them in certain spots, and then that way you should able to complete one of the missions. So that's what I was expecting to think about this anyway, so... But I get a feeling about the fact that the reason why I have to leave that particular cyberspace level is because, again, I'll save that until for a later time, especially because, my god, there's going to be some more painful parts in my perspective on this so far, so... Oh man, it does kind of remind me like I was playing Sonic 3D Blast all over again, except that you can't boost during that state, so you always have to able to carry the animal friend, and then able to actually, God forbid, do not fall off, so... Yeah, that's something, I suppose, but either way, let's just go ahead and, activate something for this point right here. But anywho though, speaking of which though, no matter what though, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever experienced some unlucky moments today concerning this is, get it, because of the forms of Friday the 13th today? So as a result, no matter what though, I think this is actually the final time we're able to come across into the unlucky day during the course of in 2023 so far. So at least that's something, I suppose, but still, it kind of feels a bit annoyingly consistent whenever you manage to able to realize that, oh, can I possibly go through here? Oh, I don't know, maybe because about the fact that I just have no words to able to know how to deal with those specific island challenges. Although, sure enough though, unlike the base game, it's actually way too easy, but usually, relatively speaking, it's about the fact that when it comes to completion of the forms of this game, it's like going from easy mode to you most able to get yourselves your hands in a first aid or something like that, no matter what though, if you managed able to do a lot of stuff. So, at least it mentions so already, which is especially noticeable once we get to the later contents to come, whatever I was trying to able to show you guys every single part of it though. But then again, I just have no idea when this particular Let's Play will be finished by then. I mean, God. At least I'm not going to be doing the arcade mode, because obviously you go through the exactly same cyberspace segments all over again, but with the forms of the time limit, and that's all that really brags about. So, speaking of which though, I don't know if the cyberspace levels in the Final Horizons will count for the sake of the forms of the arcade mode, because I think it might be a bit too much for the sake of difficulty or something like that. So, at least if I'm mistaken correctly, but either way though, I just have no words to say, so I know I keep saying this a lot, because obviously, no matter what though, I think that's as far as I can say about the forms of the entire the Final Horizon DLC update for Sonic Frontiers. I mean, sure, it is pretty interesting to be able to go into the different alternative version of Aranos' Island, that's for sure, but the amount of content they've got, my god, is going to be a whole bunch of difficult parts. Likely also way too overboard when it comes to difficulty, for not only for its very strict time limits, but it's also with certain things you're gonna have to able to recommend figure it out for, like, looking on guides. Although I was gonna try my best able to not look upon too much guides sometimes, but most of the time I have to able to actually look it up on something like that when it comes to able to not knowing what the heck am I supposed to do. So, I mean, relatively speaking though, that's as far as I can usually think about this for the sake of the forms of today's discussion. So, oh man. But at least on the upside, I can able to actually go ahead and... Oh, God. I'm pretty sure I failed this, because that stupid little fluke thing just somehow screwed me up. But at least I can able to try again at some point later down the road. So, at least potentially speaking though, it's just about the fact no matter what though. Again, practice is key here, because concerning for the fact that if you're expecting that you weren't able to actually pass for this point, then you have to obviously have to go through the ridiculous amount of trial and error sometimes. So, yeah, that seems pretty monotonous if you ever to actually decide able to think about this way. So, that's what I feel about it. So, anyways though, with that being said though, I think we should probably be ending off this point right here. So join me next time for more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. It's that we're about to climb onto the 5th and the final trial tower, and maybe we can able to actually focusing on other things first before we take care of the story progression for the time being. So, with that being said, I will see you guys until 2 weeks time for this game. Later, fellas.